Hi! Okay, so this is the next installment, and this is where the exciting part is. We're going to set up our loop, our OpenAPS loop. So we have gone through and flashed our Edison. We've set up our Wi-Fi networks and finished off the setup for our Edison. So the only thing left to do is set up our loop. So we're good. I'm going to start a little bit kind of from the beginning, and that is logging into your rig. So by now, since you have your Wi-Fi set up, you may have taken a break or gotten busy, and now you need to log into your rig. So the first thing we're going to do is go down to terminal, and we can do this a number of different ways. If you are unsure whether or not your rig is online, you can go to your home router. For example, let's slide this over. My router is located at this address. I have to enter a password because I set up a password. But you can Google your router. You can look wherever you want. But basically what you're going to want to do is you can go to your attached devices, and this will show you what is using your Wi-Fi. So we can see here, if we go down here, this is the network name that I'm using, the 5G one. We can see that Katie rig is on there. That's the one we just set up. We can also see that I have some other Edisons running right now. I have Edison 3, Edison SMB, my husband's phone, all that kind of stuff is all up here. So basically we know that this is the IP address for my rig. This is the rig's name. This is the rig's MAC address. So we have some good information that comes from looking things up on your router. If you're unsure, most routers have a sticker on the bottom of them that tells you how to log in. But I highly recommend you get comfortable with your router and checking it out, because if you ever want to log into your rig and you're thinking, it's not working, a good place to check is just to go to your router and make sure your rig is actually on the same network as your computer is or your phone is using, whatever it is. You want to make sure that's the case. So now that we know it's on, we should be good to go. You don't always have to check that. Most of the time it should be on, but if you get an error when you're logging in, this would be a good time to check. SSH root at katierig.local. That will get me in. The other thing that could get me in, if I wanted to, I could do this, root at 192.168.1.22. That is, Scott, I'm going to have to turn off your notifications here. Let me quick get her so they stop popping in. So you can see that this is the IP address for the rig, so you can either enter it like that, or you can enter Katie rig. So I'm going to enter Katie rig. Oops. It's going to ask for my password. Going to enter it. And we're in. We're logged in. Great. So now let's begin with our installation of the loop. Pretty simple. This is actually pretty quick. Most of the things are just a few copy-paste lines, and you're going to be good to go. We're going to do this dependencies installation. You can never do this dependencies installation too many times. It's very useful to do repeated times. If you have a problem, go ahead and run it again. It takes a while to run through it, but basically what's happening, you know, if you're a nerd, you could watch over this, but one of the interesting things is it's actually, you can look at what it's installing. If you go to GitHub in the OpenAPS docs, master, scripts, quick packages, let's go there. We'll take a quick look while it's doing all of its installation. So you can go to GitHub. You can go to OpenAPS docs, and we knew it was in scripts, quick packages. So basically what it's doing is installing all of these, installing sudo, installing apt-get, Python packages, pip, npm, trace, strace, screen, vim, locate, jq, lm sensors. So it's installing all of these things in the background, so that's what's actually going by. So if you look at these words that are going by, they're going to line up a lot with all these installations that are coming in. So from here, I will probably go ahead and fast forward soon. You're going to see some colorful stuff go by, I think, but basically this just is a self-installation that goes by pretty autonomous. So eventually we'll get these little colorful ones, and that's when it's installing that npm, this part here. But I always think it's kind of good to look at what it says it's doing and kind of get your bearings for where that is in GitHub as you learn sort of what's going on, why am I doing this. That's sort of a helpful thing. All right, so we are installed OpenAPS 0.1.5. As it says here, it's going to say something like 0.1.5, but just so you know, if it says 0.2.0, that's okay too. It just means you probably had dev version of OpenAPS installed once before. Don't worry about it. So long as it says OpenAPS on that last line, you're good. So let's move on. This next part, you can skip the manual installation. We are definitely going to want to go to step 1, which is cloning ORF0. So what that is, I'm going to go back to GitHub for 1 second, and I just want to give you kind of a lay of the land. So OpenAPS as a kind of place has several repositories. They have the docs, which is the part that you read online. So all of this setup and everything like that, that's all coming from this repository called docs. The other part that we just got finished installing is from the OpenAPS, is from docs, but the next part we're going to do is pull ORF0. That's going to come in, and that's your loop code. So in ORF0 is a lot of the important parts, like all the scripts, the installation scripts, all of the stuff that's automated is in here, as well as things like your code for determining your Bazel is all in here. So you can go through it anytime and come find out what ORF0 code looks like by coming into GitHub and checking it out directly. Part of ORF0 pulls in and installs this other bit of information, which is the OpenAPS tools. These tools are the parts that do the workload of your loop. They are the ones that do all of the aliases, they're called. And we'll go over aliases in a different setup, in a different video, but I just wanted you to know kind of where you are in the lay of the land of what you're pulling and moving. So it gives you a little bit of context as you go and develop this. But within this OpenAPS username, there's several repositories that are important for looping. Docs, ORF0, OpenAPS are all important cornerstones of your loop. All right, so with that said, let's go back to our docs, and we're going to pull. You have 2 choices, basically, for what you'd want to pull. You can either pull the master branch, which is very stable. Users have gone through it, done a lot of stuff, or you can pull the dev branch. Currently, right now, as of the time of the making of this video, all of the SMB and unannounced meal, the super micro bolus unannounced meal, is on dev branch. Eventually that's going to be merged into master branch. But if you wanted those features, I'm actually going to build off of dev branch for this one just so you can see how that goes. But so you're going to, if you want to do master, you're going to pull this first line, and you can tell that it's there, right there. It says pull latest from ORF0 master. If you want to do dev, you're going to come down here and pull dev branch. Okay, so we're going to copy that and we're going to paste. And if we break this down, basically what that command is telling it, it's telling it to make a directory called source. Then it's going to say go into that new directory that we just created. And inside that directory, I want you to go to GitHub and clone the dev branch of OpenAPS's RF0 repository. So basically it's saying go into GitHub, pull that into this directory that we're going to call source, and clone all of that code that we just looked at. We're going to clone all of that into our Edison, and it's going to reside as a copy on our Edison. So all of that code that was on GitHub is being moved onto your Edison. So let's do that. You can see it's cloning, it's counting how many objects, it's pulling them all in. And so now we actually are in our source directory. We can see that. We haven't left it. So I'm going to come back here. Looks like I gotta pull. I'm gonna refresh this page so that it goes back to the justification that I need. Hi. There we go. Okay, so basically if we looked in this directory and we wanted to see what got cloned in, we can do an ls to list what's in there. And we can see that within that directory, we now have RF0. Yay, so we have that copied in there. That's great. Now the next line is only required when you're installing dev branch. You don't have to do this line if you're installing master branch. So I'm going to put that in. This is only for dev branch. Do you have to do this one? So we're going to put that in. This one's going to take a little while to run. And we're going to wait it out. I'll probably fast forward through this part too. See you on the flip side. Are you a good girl? Are you a good girl? Are you a good girl? Hi. What is it? Oh yes, hi. Hi. Is she low? She's high. Is she high? Okay. Hey, Anna. Anna. Are you high? Hush. Anna. Hush. Jojo. Take her away. Can you test? Thank you. Okay, so I just had to show you. Can you see this? So Anna overtreated a low, just got a dog alert, and had her test. She's 166. So anyway, we gotta pause the video to deal with that. I'm gonna play with the dog for just a second more, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Dog taking care of, everything good. So now the last thing we need to do is actually set up our loop. To do installations. We've got all the background stuff installed, and now we just need to run the script to make it so. So what we're going to do is run this setup script. Technically, the new prompt, the new setup script in dev branch will prompt you with the Bluetooth setup, so we'll walk through that, but I'm going to put this in here right now, and basically we're going to start. Yay! Okay, so the first question will only be asked once when you set up a rig, and it says, what email address would you like to use for Git commits? Actually, I've never seen any Git commits come in. I guess you could set that up to do, but anyway, you can put an email address in. Full name, Katie's fine with me. So, do you want to start the interactive setup? Yes, we do. Let's say yes. No. And if we want a little update on how that treatment is going, let's see. Yep, We are now at 139 and rising. Yay, JoJo, for the early catch. Okay, so let's go back to this. I'm going to bring this a little bit. I wonder if I can bring this bigger so you can see it. No, probably not. All right. It says, what would you like to call your loop directory? For sure, I want you to go ahead and use my OpenAPS as the loop directory name. Only change the name of this if you're really comfortable with knowing your commands, knowing your aliases, and kind of moving around. But otherwise, you should really just leave this name as my OpenAPS. It makes it a lot easier when you're reading the docs and doing commands if you leave it with that name. So I'm just going to hit enter, and that will keep the name as my OpenAPS. Your pump serial number, which you can get obviously from the back side of your pump, it's that 6-digit number. So we're going to enter that in. And it says, what kind of CGM are we using? So in my particular case, we use a G4. I want to do G4 upload so I can get raw data when I plug the receiver in. If you're using G5, Medtronic, Xtrip, go ahead and note those ones. But for myself, it's G4 upload. Am I using an Explorer board? Yes, I am. Are you using a North American US pump? If so, hit enter. Yes, I am. If you were using a European worldwide pump, you do WW. So US it is. Are you using Night Scout? Yes, I am. And let's enter that in. Remember, it has to have the S. And what's our API secret? API secret 123. Do I want to be able to set up Bluetooth tethering later? Yes, I do. We can get our phone's Bluetooth MAC address by going into our settings on our phone, looking up the general, about, and the Bluetooth address will be there. You're going to want to enter this in all caps. Whoops, I accidentally messed up. I can fix that. And that's actually a good example of how you can fix things. We'll go back and fix that. I accidentally pressed return as I was typing. What value would you like to set for your max IOB? So remember, max IOB is not the max temp basal rate that you can set. Max IOB is the maximum amount of basal insulin on board that you allow your loop to accumulate from high temp basals. So it has nothing to do with a rate. It's actually a units of insulin. So I usually recommend something kind of conservative when you start out. Maybe you want to do 1 or 2 hours worth of your max temp basal rate, or maybe the amount, as you move forward, maybe the amount of insulin from a missed bolus might be one. So if your typical meal is 4 units, you might set your max IOB at 4 or 6 units, something like that. But basically, this number is a units of insulin. It is not related to rate of insulin. So for us, let's say we're going to set it at 6. We're going to hit enter. Do I want to enable automatic sensitivity? Yes, I do. I can enable auto-tune, sure. AMA, yep, I want that. Do I need any advanced features? So this prompt is cluing you in on the super micro bolus, unannounced meals type thing. If you answer yes that you want those, remember, this is not automatically enabled. That prompt, this text here is telling you you've answered yes, but it doesn't actually turn on SMBs or really install them. You're going to have to do something special for that, and we'll talk about that. Are you planning on using pushover? If you answer yes, you're going to have to enter your pushover user token and your API token. I actually am not going to install pushover right now, but you could say yes. If you wanted to, you can say yes. And let's just pretend 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do that. And your user key, you can just put something in. I'm going to erase those later, but you'd enter those in. And so basically right now it says, hey, does everything look good to you? It's saying, here's what we're going to run, all of this. So let's break it down. You can check it before you go on and say yes. It's a good idea to go, okay, I'm calling my loop, my OpenAPS. Is my pump serial number correct? Is it 6 digits? Do I have my Heroku site typed out correctly? Is my API secret correct? This is what an Edison board will look like. It'll look like SpyDev 5.1, Max IOB, what I'm enabling, and all of that kind of stuff. So if all of that looks right to you, you can push yes. If it doesn't look correct, you can push no, which obviously I know my Bluetooth Mac is wrong, so I'm going to push no. And it pops me out and it doesn't install. But what I can do is I can go back here, I can copy it, I can paste it, and I can edit it. So let's edit out. Let's change my mind. I don't want to do pushover, so I'm going to delete all the pushover. And I know that I forgot to finish off my Bluetooth Mac, so let's do the rest of that address. 9585, I need to do A7 and 31. Okay, so now I have my whole Bluetooth Mac entered. It's all correct. That looks wonderful. Now I'm really ready to run it. So I'm going to push return. And it says, do you want to do this now? Now does all of this look good? Yup, that's exactly how I want it. I'm going to say yes to continue. And it's going to install. It's going to do all the work here. It's going to put everything together. And we just sit back and let it do its thing, which probably will have another fast forward. Yay! Okay. That means we just got done with all of this part. And do we want to schedule OpenAPS in cron? Yes. That means we're automating our loop and it's going to run. So we're going to say yes. Do we want to remove any existing? Well, I don't have any existing because this is my first installation of loop on this rig. But if I were redoing this, I pretty much always say yes to this. You don't want 2 crons running at once. You only want one. So I'm going to say yes, I would like to delete. And we're good. It just set it up and it says press enter to reboot or control C to cancel. We do want to reboot. So I'm going to press yes or press return. And it's going to reboot the rig automatically. And I can, if I want to, go to my router and see when the rig reconnects. it will come on here as Katie rig. And then I know I can SSH into the rig then. It usually doesn't take very long for it to reconnect. If I try too soon, I will get an error message. Let's see if it's too soon. Yep. So this is a really common thing, is if you see SSH could not resolve or not known, that usually means your rig is not on the same Wi-Fi as your computer is on, which is confirmed. I don't see the rig is on here yet, so it's probably still rebooting. You know, that loop that it goes through when it reboots takes a little bit of time. So let's check it again. There it is, and we can see that it actually has a new IP address on there. It's 0.41 now, and last time it was 0.22, which is fine. So now it's ready for us to log in. There it is. Enter in the password for the rig. And we're in. So one of the last things you really want to do is you're going to watch the logs, it's called, but you want to just basically make sure that your rig is working. A couple things is you can start that. There is a shortcut for that. You can either copy and paste this whole long thing, or you can use the single lowercase l. So let's use the single lowercase l. We'll press return. And this is basically our pump loop. And it's going to go through and it's going to run through a bunch of checks. It usually takes 15 to 20 minutes for a new loop to start. So we will come back and do that video shortly, separately, so this video doesn't get too long. But that's basically installation of the loop. Okay.